Buenas y tu betas. The boys are back, ladies and gentlemen. We are back to talk about the blue and gold. We're going to look about what we missed while we've been gone. And, of course, we're going to look ahead at this upcoming Saturday. Subaru Park will host an Eastern Conference showdown, and we're going to look at that matchup ahead as well. Ladies and gentlemen, don't you dare go anywhere because you do not want to miss this episode of DOOP by the River. And let's get it started, guys.
DOOP by the River
doesn't do anything well. There is not one.
I'm sorry. There was no creativity.
As a Union fan, I take that all day.
Another DP. We need to go get Mario Balotelli. And that is right. Welcome back, everyone, to DOOP by the River, the show where we follow everything Philadelphia Union. And, of course, we are brought to you by Philly Sports Network. Before we dive into today's episode, real quick, just want to thank everyone for coming back on in. It's been a while. We appreciate you guys tuning back on in. If you guys are watching live on YouTube, hit that like button. We truly appreciate it. Subscribe. We post all of our live viewings here on El Partido Philly's YouTube channel. And, of course, we're live on Twitter. What's going on Twitter? Make sure you guys follow on there. We're going to put the pods right back on where you stream podcasts. So make sure you guys are subscribed to DOOP by the River podcast. Without further ado, guys, it's been a long time coming. Please welcome my expert in duping, Justin Tam, podcaster Friedberg. Justin, what's up, brother?
Not much. It's been a while. I know I haven't been on in a while. I know it's been a while since we've been on. It's been a crazy past month. This year it has been one of the busiest I think I can ever recall. But I'm loving being back talking some Union because it's been an interesting last few weeks. To put it bluntly.
Yeah, man, I'm excited too. I just want to thank everyone for their patience. Obviously, I'm going through technical difficulties. My dumbass, pours a little bit of water by accident on my MacBook, but we're back. We're in action. We've been recording live all day. Real quick, Justin, I just want to thank the people over at All City Sports for having me on yesterday. And I want to thank the people who tune into our podcast, who showed some love to that podcast. The one beautiful thing about our community, soccer community, MLS community, Union community, is we have each other's backs. And we're a small community, but we love to welcome everyone. And welcome in Renee, welcome in the Philly Union podcast. It was really dope. So thank you guys for tuning on into that. But we're back, Justin, and I'm excited to talk about it all. Real quick, Justin, we did have a match while we've been gone that I want to touch upon real quick. So obviously the Union beat the Red Bull on September 3rd, 10 days ago. It was a great showing. Obviously, Red Bull go up early. We tied them up. Thank you to Sean Nealis for giving us that double yellow that resulted in the red card. And then, Justin, what we saw was something a little bit unorthodox. They played extremely well with the man up. That's not something we can always say with the blue and gold. But they look really well. They put 3 more goals. They win 4-1. Again, Red Bull, Union, always low scoring. To see the Union put up 4 with an extra man, you have to be extremely, extremely happy from what you saw that Sunday. Obviously, we'll talk about the news after the match. But during the match, Justin, I know it's been 10 days, but anything that stood out to you against the Red Bull, brother?
I think, for one, it's nice to see that this team still can respond from going down a goal. Man, the cojones on Omir Fernandez, that ricochet was simply one of the luckiest ricochets right back to him for a team that, to be honest, had not created a lot of chances the rest of the half. And the Union, I think, obviously started slow. It happens, especially coming off of a poor result in Toronto, which isn't like this team. I think that's something that we all can realize, especially midweek on the road. Seeing that, you have five, I think, including 5 home games in your last 6 or 7. So you're home for most of the rest of the season. You should be, even with some tough results, including this upcoming next 2 matches, you should be at least picking up some points. with everything going on around with some of the teams around you. I think even before the second yellow, I think you saw this team definitely responding. I think that Glesnes goal, he was someone who was very much called out for having a very poor performance against Toronto. I rightfully so. And he responds with a dirty goal, with a gritty goal, bounce around in the box and just smashing that home. And for people who I love that I saw that they said the yellow card, the second yellow, was harsh. And firstly, you could see on the play he gets away with one to start. Like the ball hits his hand initially, and it comes back to Uwa, and it's like, okay, that one I get it. That one, like, it's a ricochet. It happens. But then he tries to chip it past, and the ref even said the reason, one, you can see he chicken wings it. He sticks it out towards the ball. The ref, after the game, even mentioned that it stopped a promising attack. I mean, there was a good chance that was going to be at least a 3-on-1, 3-on-2 in on net. And, like John Tolkien, like, running in, like I was going to change something. And it was a second yellow. That was just how it is. And I think, the Union typically have not fared well up a man, which is something you typically don't say or don't want to say about your team. But they definitely responded. The Damian Lowe header, for someone who I was very much in the camp of, Damian Lowe did not have a good Leagues Cup. He is someone who has very much had a good run of play in MLS, but did not look good in Leagues Cup. I think, he was unfortunately partially at fault. Obviously, the blocked shot leads to Dre being out of position. You're responding, and he wasn't looking great. And the way to respond, especially after Red Bull had kind of, for at least the first couple of minutes of the second half, really taken on the front foot. Scoring a goal is a good way to kind of silence that.
Yeah.
And then Carranza with a beautifully timed first hit. Coronel had no chance. That thing was pass had some pace on it, and Carranza just gets around it, curls it inside the post. That makes it 3-1. And Daniel Gazdag, the man who, according to Twitter, only scores PKs. Apparently, they count less than regular goals. That, despite him, I don't know, checks it being like tied for third or fourth in the Golden Boot race. But hey, what it is.
Second all-time in history.
Yeah, scoring that goal, coming off injured. Luckily, he was held out of the Hungarian national team as a precaution. Jim said he is 100% good to go, which is very good, especially against the Cincinnati side that, while has not played amazing in the last few weeks, they are still the number one team, and they are still coming off. They are still in prime position to win the Supporters Shield. So I think, and it was very good to see the Hebrew Hammer, the Israeli wonder kid, that's what I'm going to start going with.
Hebrew Hammer.
The Hebrew Hammer.
When did you come up with that, Justin?
Oh, listen, have you not seen the cinematic masterpiece that is the movie The Hebrew Hammer?
No.
If you have not, I highly recommend it.
We'll do, man. We'll do.
It is a very, very. It's a movie of its time in the early 2000s. Greg Giraldo, Andy Dick.
Okay.
God, it was a good movie. But the main character is referred to as the Hebrew Hammer.
Okay.
And that's why as soon as Ty Barabo came over, I was like, I said, I'm just gonna keep calling him the Hebrew Hammer. And
we're gonna have to tell Evan Cohen this one, man. I like that. The Hebrew Hammer. I like that.
And honestly, I think in 20 or so minutes, I think Barabo really got he looked like he was getting into the right positions. The ball wasn't really falling to him, but he definitely see why he's more of the Carranza replacement, because he does drop deep. He's not the one that's really going to stretch the field. He does have pace, but he's not the one that's going to be stretching the field. He's the one that's going to be linking back, that's going to be setting things up.
Okay.
And I think he definitely has a very, very good soccer IQ. So that was nice to see.
Real quick on Ty though, what does Jim need to see to at least give him consistent 30 minutes a match? I personally want to see more. I get the whole like acclimating himself to the league and to the club, but like we can't even get like 30, 20 minutes a match.
I don't know if it's anything that he's done. We talked about this with Gosdog when he came over, and mid-season acquisitions are tough. I think that's something that you can't, not everyone is, and I always reference this because this is my best frame of reference. No, not everyone's a Nico Ladero that hits the ground running mid-season. It typically in this league, it takes time to adjust. And I mean, listen, he had played a decent amount of games. When we typically seem to be signing players that are, coming in and have played a season. Like, I think that's something that is like you want to ease him in. And also it did take a while for the visa stuff. I think you want to ease him in. And again, think about you have Cincinnati on Saturday. You have LAFC the following Saturday, and then you have the rescheduled FC Dallas game that Wednesday, and then Columbus away, and then Atlanta midweek in Nashville. So like you boom, 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 boom. You have a couple weeks in a row where you have Saturday, Wednesday, Saturday, Wednesday, Saturday, and I think
it's a lot, man.
I think that's where you're gonna see Barabo get in there. I think then maybe you change things up top, because if he is the Carranza replacement, you're going to have two guys that are going to kind of drop deep, and you're going to lose that speed up top, that more direct speed. But you could play the two of them up top. I don't like, but that's why you still have Quinn, you still have Chris Donovan still in there. And it was also great to see Jeremy Raffanello get into the game. Shouts actually to him. I, along with Baby Kyle, if you are around, Baby Kyle. I was one of the Union 2 Ultras at the game against Toronto 2. It was a fun time. If you saw me,
we love that for you, Justin.
If you saw me acting like a goofball, that was a hell of a time. But it was good to see that there's going to be more rotation. I generally think you're going to see a lot of that. So it's nice to see that happening. But at the same time, with Barabo, it's kind of a fast finish until you get to a slight international break. And then you have the Revolution is the last game away, the 21st. So I think you're going to need him at the very least in some capacity. And I think that's what Jim is looking at and saying, you had a break. Now you're getting into the real meat of the stretch. 2 through 6 are very tight. You still have a game in hand. You can easily get, I think second is easily attainable at this point. I've been saying that, you're only a point behind. Like, it is absolutely capable. And right now, the tough stretch starts this weekend.
Okay. I mean, I want to see Ty because I don't want to think too far ahead. Like, I'm still into the season, but after what we heard with Carranza, right, with the Olympiacos rumor, the 7.5 million, you hear Jim in the presser talking about it. It does feel like Carranza, if he just sticks on this path that he's on right now, he's gone. He's gone in the winter.
He's not leaving. If the rumors are true, and I think Werder Bremen even, I don't think he leaves this winter for anything less than 10. I think if 7, there are a lot of indications that Julian Carranza will be the Union's highest outgoing transfer ever. And I fully believe it. I mean, remember, we bought this man for $500,000 from Miami, who paid $6 million because they were playing him out of position. Just think about that.
Dude, like, could we just take a quick time out for that? Like, imagine if Miami wasn't in the beautiful location that it's in. Dude, the ineptitude of that organization, man.
At the
They
time,
got
yeah.
so lucky with Messi, man. They got so lucky with them. Because
I think that papers over a lot of cracks, and it helps. You know, Messi is a type of player that is great at helping young talent move along and in the right positions. Miami, when they had brought in Carranza, they were a dumpster fire.
Well, it's truly remarkable because, like, I'll say this. I'm gonna go on a limb, but just MLS wise, when we sold Brennan, I feel like he was a better prospect. I understand that scoring goals is extremely valuable in this game, but at that time, what Brennan was doing at that age, that was truly remarkable. So that was like what, $6 million we got for Brennan back in 2020 from Salzburg?
About like 6-7 mil, yeah.
Obviously plus incentives, but to get like 7 to 10 mil, dude, it's a great job by Irons, man. Fantastic job by Irons. I want to ask you a real quick question before we get to Kai. We talked about this yesterday on the Philly Union podcast, but the three-man back formation versus the 4-man back formation. For me, it's all about what you have available. But I wanted to ask you, man, what do you think, if all healthy, what's better suited for this club? 3 or 4 in the back?
I don't think there's a particular right or wrong answer. And the reason why is because it's a situational awareness thing. I think you look at teams that you're playing and look at what works. You look at Red Bull, a back 3 works fine because when you play that 4-4-2 against them, it's a reason why it's a stalemate. Those games were usually the 0-0, the 1-1s, because it was ugly, because the teams were playing the same exact formation, the same exact game. And so you needed to break that down. And same thing with NYCFC, you're playing that back 3, but then you have teams that have a better front 3. So then you want to have that back. I don't think one formation over the other is better. I genuinely just think it's which team you're playing. And yes, the Union have more comfort with the back 4, but you've seen the back 3 work well. And I think that's something that you can't overlook, in that, yes, Jim sometimes does overthink it, but I think a lot of the times he's looking at it in a very situational perspective, where you've got to look at which formation is going to unlock which midfield, and which how your outside backs are getting up. It really is something that can even change mid-game. I mean, we've seen Jim make the adjustments to a back 3 or to the back 4 in a game when it's not working.
Yeah.
And so I think that's that. I don't really have an answer one way or the other, as much as trust me, I love the back 3. The back 3, I've been so happy that we finally used it this year. But I genuinely can understand the way the pros and cons for both formations at this point.
I even look at like 2019, like that was like the first real year we introduced like the 4-4-2 diamond regularly. But if you remember that year, you would switch into the 4-2-3-1 because you would have El Sino come out into the second half. And obviously that was extremely dynamic for a good portion of it, until teams, after a while, when you're rolling out the 4-4-2 diamond, then you're coming out in the second half in the 4-2-3-1, you're bringing El Sino, everyone knows what's about to happen. But having that tactical flexibility is important. But it is interesting. I think right now, if the midfield depth stays intact, I like the diamond. Simply because I just love just having that extra defender there, and having the midfield. The midfield diamond, dude, when it's compact like that, it is really hard to defend, and obviously the counterattack. Really hard to attack with, but with the counterattack, they really, really are a killer there. But let's get to the Kai news real quick. And of course, our boy Jose was on top of that one, did a great job reporting on that. But obviously, Kai, after the match, we've been talking about this for a while. Jose brought up the fact about his status with the team after the season, and Kai surprised everyone saying like he feels like this will be his last season in Philly, and that caught everybody by surprise. What do you personally think it is? Is it that he just really wants to go back to Europe? Is it a money thing? What do you think it is exactly, Joss?
First off, I think it's a super weird time to bring it up. Like, I think, like most teams, a lot of this these kind of discussions happen at the end of the season. Again, and we still don't know if there is a club option. I think that's something that might be crucial if there is talks of him actually leaving. I think it's money. We've talked about him going to Europe, and every time that happens, think about every time that's happened, he's always played poorly. Like after that fact, like he buys into his own hype, and then yes, he is one of the best left backs in the league, but then like it starts to fade.
I feel that too sometimes.
I think it's about the money, and someone goes, "Oh, pay him that DP money." I'm sorry. No player on the back line should be making designated player money. I genuinely believe that. I love Kai. I really do. He has arguably been one of the best goal contributors and throwing in those crosses that the Union have ever had. And there's no disputing that. But no player on the defensive end should be making that kind of money. I think that is because you've seen teams that have had pretty average back lines, but have thrown their money into the midfield and the attack, and they've won MLS Cups. I think that's something where if we can keep Kai 100%, great. I absolutely want to. And I think where I say this, people always assume I do not want to keep him, and that is the farthest thing from the truth. I just do not believe that a defensive player should be getting DP money. I think that is absolutely ridiculous.
Justin, God forbid you thought with some logic there.
God forbid. I think that the Union should focus more of their money in the midfield and the attack, and they've given nice contracts to Jack and to Jakob and obviously to Dre. But I mean, outside backs, you can convert midfielders into outside backs. Like it's not that Kai is easy to replace. That's gonna be a tough position if he does leave. But I think this has been an ongoing thing for a few years. Every time it's always this, always that. Like it's just like I just don't think he just might be pricing himself out of the Union's hands.
I do think that there would be a team that in this league that would throw money at him, because obviously there's dumb enough people that would do that. But I actually have the same sentiment that you do. For me personally, my ideal is just rounding out the depth of the team. I'm not giving DP money to Kai Wagner. I mean, like, does fullbacks get has a fullback ever gotten a DP deal in this league?
I'm
trying to think about that.
But for the money that he probably wants, you could probably get two players that equal one. Like, and I think that's fine. You don't need to have one guy that's completely outstanding. Like, I think that's kind of, and that's also why you've been doing good with the back three, because then that gives you a lot of flexibility with who's on the outsides.
And you know what else makes me feel better, Justin, is that the fact that I have Ernst calling the shots and has done a solid job of scouting throughout the country, or not the country, throughout the world. And I do trust him to find a replacement at the fullback position. So,
and that is one thing I will say about this fan base, and I know this is gonna get me shit. So I'm prepared for the firestorm that's gonna happen.
Oh, get it, Justin, get it.
There is this weird sentiment among this fan base that they can't separate the player from the fact that this is a business, and they hold there's a thing about holding on to players too long, and like it's suddenly the team's fault if a player leaves. We saw this we saw this with Ray. We saw this with Casper. We saw this in Atlanta with Joseph. I mean, that team, they held on to, they almost rioted every time that he left. Like, there's something, especially with this fan base, that I don't understand why we can't separate. Like, yes, I love when a player's here, and I will, they will respect them, and I will love the time that they're here. But I also understand every player has a time to move on, whether it's through contracts, whether it's through injuries, whether it's through retirement. Every player moves on. It's a business. That's just how it is. And I'm sorry, like, I think that's what gets lost on some of this fan base. And people automatically assume it's the team not wanting to pay him. It's like, if he's asking for DP money, I'm sorry, a defensive player is not worth DP money. That's just pure and simple of it.
Dude, like the majority of soccer leagues have to go through what you don't have to really deal with, like clubs like that don't have to deal with, but clubs like the Union around the world, we have to go through this all the freaking time. And as we lost another subscriber, I'm just kidding. But no, dude, you're spot on. Like, at the end of the day, we're fans of a business, and for a lot of these businesses, they're looking at these players like assets, And
that's literally what it is. Players, putting my accountant job, like, players are assets. The value of them are assets. When you sell them, you get gain or loss on how. So, as shrewd as that sounds, players are assets. That is the bottom line. That is pure and simple.
And they're having the same conversations in that front office that we are having right now. It's not like, oh, well, the fan base just started a whole hashtag. We should probably keep them. No.
But it's like, I'm sure Ernst is probably like, okay, what's the market? How much are comparable players getting in this league? What is there a player that we can get, that we can build, like, that has those, like, yeah. And I think people are like, oh, they're just sitting on their ass and Jay's not going to let them pay. It's like, that is not remotely the situation. I'm sure this conversation has been going on in the front office all the time. It's just how a business is.
Yeah, it is the truth. It is the truth. All right, we are at our half an hour mark here. I want to get into Cincinnati talk. Obviously, that is our next matchup here this upcoming Saturday. So we're going to move into our preview, and as we always do, we bring you the eyes from the other side. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, we are blessed to have on, get this, another Justin. We're going to bring on Justin Blair. He's from Cincy Soccer Talk. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome on in Justin, or JB. Justin, my man, welcome on to DOOP by the River. How you feeling, brother?
Feeling pretty good, man. Thanks for having me on. I always look for your all's podcast whenever I need Philadelphia Union news, for sure.
Dude, we really appreciate that, man. Thank you, dude. Justin, I mean, I'm gonna have to. So JB and then Justin. Justin, can we please just admire this man's setup, because I love. Oh, he's got all the scarves, man.
Yeah, that I only have a paltry like 5 scarves here. And I had this come up in a work call. I had to explain through what my scarves were, but yeah, that is. I've never been much into scarves, so I gotta really start getting some extra Union scarves to start trading.
You should see the other wall. The other wall is college football pennants. So cool. It's just like I'm a creature of habit. I love it.
Hey, listen, man. We're Eagles fans here. We are in love with Jason Kelsey. So go Bear. Hey, EAGLES Eagles. I love it.
I grew up in. Forgive me. I know I'm in a Cincinnati soccer talk group, good, but I grew up in NFL purgatory.
Okay.
So I grew up in a college town south of Cincinnati.
Okay.
And there just was no NFL worth watching at all. And it was right at those NFC title games with the Eagles in the 03, 04.
Oh, my childhood.
And I was just like, man, I love the Eagles. But I've, since moved on, the constant roster turnover with the Eagles, I was like, okay, I can't follow this anymore.
I feel it, man. Well, hey, we're happy to have you on to talk about Philadelphia. Yep. First off, man, Justin, we'll kind of talk about a little about yourself. What do you do for Cincy Soccer Talk? Talk a little bit for people who don't remember what Cincy Soccer Talk is all about, man.
Yeah. So I'm. This is my first year writing with Cincinnati
Nice.
Soccer Talk. I've been doing some of the podcasting with them. But yeah, I'm having a lot of fun. I've done probably college football and basketball for 15 years now. So
Cool,
this is
man.
kind of a new step in the journey. I love soccer, obviously. I've enjoyed
Helps.
it for a long time, but I've wanted to give it a tackle, see if I could write for them. And then Cincinnati Soccer Talk, they've been doing it since 2015. I'm a long
Yeah.
time fan of theirs. The guys over there are great. I know you've probably had Brian Weigel on your show
Yes, sir, man.
several times.
Great dude.
But yeah, they're great people. It's a big group of people that do podcasting, writing. We have people that do historical writing, people that cover the two team. We have a huge team of photographers.
Cool.
It's a great group.
Awesome stuff, man. So, how long have you been a fan of FC Cincinnati?
I am a casual observer.
Okay.
I watched FC Cincinnati just minorly in the USL days, and then
Okay.
when they got the MLS call up. But it was really 2020 whenever we had that MLS is back tournament, and everybody,
Great
all the
times.
focus could get exactly, all the focus could be shifted onto that. It was
Right.
like, holy cow! And also, obviously, ESPN Plus,
Yeah.
being able to see all the matches instead of just having to find it somewhere on a local channel that you're blacked out on. So,
Literally.
but no, yeah, I've fell in love at first sight. Obviously, those were some tumultuous times for FC Cincinnati, but yeah, huge fan. We're enjoying rightfully earned run at the Shield this year.
So Justin can attest better than I can towards the change the Union have had from the 2010s, where it was mediocre to bad soccer, to now, being one of the best in the league. Kind of want to get your perspective, because you guys have kind of gone through the same thing a little bit quicker.
Mhm.
You guys went from wooden spoon to wooden spoon to, dude, you
Wooden
guys.
spoon. That's three in a row. Yeah, don't let's not gloss over that.
Put some respect on our name, man.
Those were proudly earned wooden spoons.
Fans earned it for sure.
Oh man, but you guys are really close now to a supporter shield, which is really dope. Speaking, because witnessing that in 2020 was really remarkable. So kind of just talk about, dude, just the feel, like the fan feel, like going from worst to first, man.
It's bananas, but I know you Philly fans are definitely tough on your teams too, but it's kind of interesting because fans kind of moved on from the honeymoon really quickly, and it's
Okay.
like, oh, we got to go in, we got to win these games. We want to take down Messi, we want to lift trophies and stuff like that. It's like, whoa. Like I'm still getting caught up on, hey, we collected 3 points this weekend. Like, that's what I'm so excited about that. But no, I mean, obviously you guys know Pat Noonan and Chris Albright and how much they've changed this club. I mean, it was just really a chaotic mess. Now, COVID had something to do with it. As you remember, FC Cincinnati started in 2019, kind of brought over some of the USL stuff, went with Jaap Stam in 2020, and it really never got off because there wasn't much activity in the transfer market at the time. So it kind of was just kind of a weird start for FC Cincinnati. But Pat Noonan and Albright immediately put in a plan right away. And man, we're just like, I'm in euphoria. Fans want, the trophies. We want the silverware. But I think we're on our way for that.
I just think what it is that, like, you gone through so much tough times. When you have that moment, you don't know how long it'll last. So for the fans' perspective, it's like, let's take advantage of it as much as we can right now and win and get as many trophies. And I understand where you're coming from, because it's like, what, like Pat and Chris is like, what, second season together?
Second season,
right?
Yep.
So, like, yeah, you would think that this year, you're reaching top of the East. Although you guys, honestly, it was probably the most in the playoffs last year, besides obviously LAFC. I was most worried about you guys. I really wasn't even that worried about NYCFC, despite the storylines. But you guys have the book on us. You guys definitely have the book on us. But obviously, like, we've known, like you said, Chris and Pat from here. But for you, Justin, personally, JB, I'm sorry. So for you, JB, personally, like, what makes Pat so good in your perspective here now in Cincy?
Well, Pat's smart man. He doesn't just go in. I mean, this is his first time as a head coach. but he's brought in, I mean, obviously some of the MLS Mount Rushmore of coaching staffs. I mean, he was with Bruce Arena for a time at LA. He was with obviously Jim Curtin over at Philadelphia. That's a phenomenal coach to learn from. But then he went out and got Dom Kinnear on his staff and brought over Kenny Arena. It wasn't afraid to bring over people that had shared vision, but could offer a little bit of a different take. And he's a great leader. I mean, you could tell he was a captain when in his playing days. He really has earned the respect of that locker room, and something that Yop never was really interested. He wanted to be a true manager, control the locker room by his presence. But Pat is just, he lets the locker room gel and be its own thing. I'm sorry, I got like a gnat flying over my. But no, Pat is just like, I can only describe him as a great leader, and he that whole group of coaches have been extremely flexible with the pieces, with the financial burden that they were handed from the previous administration. There's been a lot of things that they've had to navigate, right? Like last year we had Brenner. Brenner wanted to go. He wanted to go on the first offer. And he was able to navigate that and really refine Brenner into, I mean, at the end of the season, he was top 5 goal scorer. I mean, it's one of, he's just done a remarkable job keeping the locker room tight with a lot of personalities, a lot of characters over there. And I'm sure you're aware of.
Absolutely, man. Want to touch upon, you guys have had a lot of success on the pitch, but obviously distractions as well. You know, when you got clubs in Europe calling for your players, it's not easy. You know, we've dealt with that too here. You know, kind of how you guys have been dealing with some of these distractions on and off the pitch.
Well, it's been a little bit hard. I mean, you've paired that with injuries, and we're seeing a lot of international call-ups this season. I mean, with Vasquez finally getting the opportunities with the U.S. men's national team. There's tons of guys that have South American ties, Central American ties that have been called
Arias.
up. Arias, yeah, Junior Moreno. You know, even Angolo has a call up. Celentano was called up for the U.S. So it's been a litany of things to deal with. But I think honestly, there's been a lot of noise. Sure, losing Brenner is not ideal at the beginning of the season, but it was something that really, like, the fans had already, we were already beyond that. We knew what he wanted. We knew his goals. I think some fans naively were happy kind of to see that whole saga play out. But obviously he brought a pedigree to FC Cincinnati, but we've navigated it pretty well. I mean, we've been winning in kind of ugly ways, as if you remember last year, FC Cincinnati was kind of a shootout team. We're gonna, you know, we have a lethal front three. We're gonna score a lot of goals. We may concede a lot of goals, but we're definitely going to be putting goals up. So hang on tight. But this year it's been a lot more of a defensive structure. Matt Miazga in the back, and then having Mascara. So that's allowed us to deal with some of that and some of the international calls and stuff. I think most of the players that are still on the roster, they're pretty comfortable with the vision that FC Cincinnati has for them, and know that it's probably an end of the season kind of thing with Brandon Vasquez and Ariel Barriel to be in particular.
Okay. Acosta MVP this year?
I don't know what else he's got to do. I mean, Acosta is just, I mean, he's just a flash in the pan. Like the way he can just affect the game and change it in an instant. I know there's another Argentinian 10 that's in the league now that's going to garner a lot of that attention. But yeah, I mean, Acosta has been the man, and we've seen not so much this year because it seems like he's played every minute this season, but Acosta has been just the absolute X factor. I mean, there was a time we were down 3-1 in Chicago. He comes in at the 75th minute, brings the game back. I mean, the guy is unbelievable. His fire, his passion, his competitiveness, playing every match regardless of injury status or a competition level. The man's got to be I mean, it would take a very special performance for him to not be the MVP 2023.
Okay, and he's missing Saturday's match, correct?
He is red card or yellow card
Okay.
accumulation.
It's
Yeah.
one I couldn't see it anywhere, but okay,
It was a
that makes sense.
very, very, very weak call. It was pretty rough. There was a lot of acting that happened in that Orlando City. You guys know how Orlando City are. They like to muddy the water a little bit. But yeah, he actually is going to miss this match.
Yeah, that's right. That is correct. Real quick, Justin, I want to switch back over to our side here. Jim's presser, really big news in that one was the injury update. You mentioned Gazak, 100%. Bueno looks good to go as well. He's been practicing. The big one, though, Justin, Flock. Leon Flock could be back before the end of the season. He got a second opinion in Germany, and the timetable could be shrunk there, man. So some good news, Justin. What do you think about some of these injury updates, especially in the midfield? It's important for us.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, Leon's someone who I think unfairly has gotten a lot of crap this season. I think he does all the work that's not really showing up on the stat sheets. He's not great at bringing the ball forward, but what he does do is he allows someone like El Brujo to kind of do what he does best and being a destroyer, and Leon cleans up and does all the other things while El Brujo can bring the ball up. So the fact that I think they said in a couple weeks, like maybe early October would be right. If they can get him, I would say rushing him even against like Nashville that Saturday before the international break would still kind of be a rush, because then you do still have one final game. It would be nice. But I think with the midfield depth you have, you don't need to rush him back. Jesus Bueno, gutted that knock came before he was able to step on the field for Venezuela. I think he genuinely has been one of the Union's best players over the past few months and absolutely deserved that call up, and was gutted for him. Some of the the Instagram posts and all that were kind of looking a little cryptic. We weren't sure because it didn't look great. Gazdag had a feeling that him being held out of the Hungarian national team was really just precautionary, because when he scored that goal, it was one of those moments where it was definitely looked like a kind of a cramp, and you can definitely tell like as he went down, it was just like when guys genuine, and usually when the guys get hurt worse, it looks a lot worse. And at that moment, I was like, all right, you're up 4-1. You no need. And and he had been training, so at the very least he was still kind of getting going. So having a healthy Daniel Gazdag in a matchup where there is no Luciano Acosta, I think that is, I always say in a Jim Curtin versus a Pat Noonan matchup, that midfield is where the game is won. And it's always Wobodo versus El Brujo and Acosta versus Gazdag, and Wobodo and Brujo essentially cancel each other out because of how they play. But not having Luciano is something that obviously is, listen, the teams are very, very evenly stacked. But I think that's one of those things, if you're going to tip something in the Union's favor, having a healthy Gazdag and no Acosta on the field is something that tips it just ever so slightly in the Union's favor.
It should be interesting for sure, man. I'm excited for that. JB, so on to that point there. So with no Acosta, how does this attack look for Cincinnati on Saturday?
Well, there's some questions, obviously, if Bupinza is going to be back with the team. I think he's in travel right now. I mean, that might be enough for him. He was in the Gabon. I think that was African, I think is the competition.
African qualifying has been going on.
Yeah, so they got eliminated. So he only got a game in, but he's back and traveling. So we'll see where he's at. But I think obviously replacement for Costa is going to be Kubo. I mean, that's probably your
Yeah,
best
that's
option at this point. Is
Talk
'cause
about OGs, man.
that's
Kubo.
Yeah.
a name. That's a guy that really. I was surprised he stayed on through all of this. It's like I think he got subbed on one of the games. I'm like, oh yeah, Yaya Kubo is still on FC Cincinnati.
That's a big contract to try to move.
Yeah,
It was
yeah,
it
it
was
is.
pretty poorly negotiated, but yeah, but credit to Kubo. Kubo has been willing to play any position. I mean, he's been forward, he's been he's played
6, 8, 10. Like
yeah, I mean, he's been all over the pitch. He's a better 6 in my opinion than anything, but he's been willing to step in wherever needed. Winger, whatever you need, Kubo's been there, and he's brought some juice. It's just his first touch has always been poor. He's shown signs of improvement by that, but when you're in the midfield, when you're really that safety valve in the central attacking midfielder position, you need to be sure about your touches. Once he gets the ball at his feet, he's very dangerous, and he's really good with Vasquez up top, but it's the being able to get him the ball that could be a problem. And we're also looking to be without Junior Moreno, who's still on international traveling back with the team. So it's kind of interesting to watch. Everybody should be match fit, but getting them back 2 days before a big matchup, especially on the road at Philadelphia, see who's getting the start.
Okay. All right. Well, with that said, let's talk about some lineups here. JB, we'll let you go first here as the guest. What could Cincinnati be lining up in? Give us a formation as well.
Oh, it's definitely going to be. We've shown absolutely no interest in going with anything other than a 3-5-2, really since the match day 1 last year in 2022 against Austin. It's been 3-5-2 all the way through. So up top, you're probably going to see a Santos or maybe even Dom Baji playing up top alongside Brandon Vasquez, because I don't think that Bupinza is going to come in and immediately be in the starting lineup. I could be wrong in that, but it's probably not likely. Yaya Kubo probably will be the one slotting in at that 10 position. And then with Moreno out, we're going to probably see Marco Angolo, who's a very capable, probably one of the best athletes on this team for FC Cincinnati. He just has to get a little bit more experience in the midfield. And then, of course, Obina Nwobono is going to lock down that defensive midfielder position. Barrial is going to be your left wing back. Mosquera is going to be your left central back. Miazga in the central right side. You're going to have Hagelin. And then I would say with no Arias, they're probably going to have, it's either going to be Ray Gaddis or I know Philadelphia fans just kind of snickered there, but it's probably going to be Ray Gaddis, or you might see Brett Halsey, who's been an FC Cincinnati 2 guy that's come in and played some really good minutes for FC Cincinnati as a substitute. And he has the acclimate. He's a very creative, pressing forward player, and he's a good defender too, very confident. You saw it in the Inter Miami game. If you watch that, he went right at Miami's defense. He defended against Messi, no problem. I mean, it's that the kid's got a heck of a lot of confidence with his acclimate.
Man, if Ray Gaddis scores in Chester, Pennsylvania, just man, we are gonna
listen.
lose.
The closest he came was forget what year it was, against the Colorado Rapids, where he rang. Like, I think the crossbar was still shaking for a long time after he hit it. That is the closest Ray Gaddis has ever come, or probably will ever come, to scoring a goal in this league.
Yeah, if we wrap up the Shield and we get a penalty kick, Gaddis has to be the penalty kick taker.
Oh yeah. Jim said the same thing every time with Ray, and the chance never came up.
Oh my god, man! And real quick, is Sergio Santos on the injury list?
Sergio Santos? No, he's so he's probably the most questionable, but I think he's fine. He's been, participating in practices. He again, he's one of those guys that it seems like every time you look at the injury report, he's popping in and out of
That's why we asked. We're used to go get Sergio's on the list again.
So talented, man, and especially like when you got tired back lines, man, dude, he's so dangerous.
That's what I love about him. I mean, but the problem is that like we just kept. I mean, Bapinza is a relatively new toy for FC Cincinnati. I
Okay.
mean, we've probably had 6 matches with him so far. So like, it was great to see Santos be able to do that, but we haven't gotten it with Bupinza being out on injury, Bupinza going out on international duty. We'll see coming up. We'll see how we do.
Okay. Justin, let's get the lineup here for the Philadelphia Union.
So as I always say, and we got to make a T-shirt of this. Write it in permanent marker. 3-time goal of the year, Andre Blake in the back. There was some concern when he was, I believe, came down with some kind of a illness during Jamaica during Nations League qualifying. Luckily, he was able to come back for some of their games, so that was a little bit concerned, but he's back. I think realistically, you're gonna see the 4-4-2 come back, especially because every time the Union seem to go with the same formation as Pat does, that never ends well, and it always is a stalemate, and it's an ugly game, and we've seen enough of those. So I think obviously you have Kai on the left, you have Jakob and Jake. The right side is going to be interesting. In a game like this, my thought is always going with Nate because he is the better defensive outside back. But I always seem to get this wrong in the games like this, even though that's what I would do. I think Jim would probably go with Olivier just because that's how it usually ends up. Now, the midfield is kind of where I've kind of been debating because obviously El Brujo is going to be at the base of the diamond. I think you have Ali on the right side. Now, the left shuttler position is kind of where I've been debating between either Jesus Bueno or Jack McGlynn. I think it really depends on how Jim wants to get it. I think I'll start with Jack McGlynn because Jesus Bueno has definitely done a good job of coming off the bench and being that ball of energy with someone who definitely is coming into his own, is someone who we did not expect, and is the reason why you were able to send Andres Pereira on loan because of how well Bueno has been doing. And then at the tip of the diamond, the man who, according to some Union fans, apparently can only score PK goals and those count less for some damn reason. Daniel Gazdag, who is, as I said, he is third or fourth, I believe, on the total goal contributions list, and third or fourth in the Golden Boot race, along with William Carranza.
I know.
And up top, I think you're going to go with Carranza and Uwa. Uwa is someone who I know he has been a subject of questions for this year for the Union, but I think he has still been doing what he does best, which is making those direct runs in the seams and the channels, making unlike Casper and Union strikers of pass, makes those more direct runs into the net. Has gotten better at his hold up play, I think, especially with his speed. I think you have Carranza and Gaza usually crashing the box late, and so that front three is going to, if they can get going, is going to be the key to, I think, controlling against an FC Cincinnati midfield that I think is going to be relying on someone like Wobodo a lot more to really shut down the Union attack and really help give Yakubo and Vasquez really a lot more chances, because this is going to be a slogfest. That is how these Union FC Cincinnati matches always are, and it's just going to be who the momentum's going to sway. It's just going to be who can control it and what midfield can really establish, because these are two teams that Jim and Pat have played similar styles. Both teams don't always love to have the ball, but can have the ball. So it's going to be, all right, who wants the ball first and who's going to have it and who's going to be able to do much with it. So I think that's going to be the big test. It's going to be the battle of the midfields.
It is, as typically it always is with Cincy and with Philly. One point that we need to point out: Glesnes is nearing here 100 straight appearances for the blue and gold. That is really remarkable, truly remarkable, man. We've had some good center backs over the past couple of years, man. But dude, Glesnes is gonna have a special spot in our heart, man.
Someone who can shoot it from.
Shoot.
If you hear that on the broadcast, Justin, it'll be everyone in the river end, even if he's at R18, will just be yelling to shoot. And listen, I think that's something that, man, it must be all those off seasons on the fishing boat job that he does while in the off season. So cool. Yeah, that's I don't think we've ever had such a character who is like genuinely so down to earth, but is also like just a legend in his own right, and probably one of the best Union center backs I think we've had by far.
You think he's ever fished with Cole Turner?
I think they're doing different types of fishing. I think Glesnes is doing more deadliest catch type of style fishing than Cole Turner's more a nice quiet lake with a cooler full of beer and some tunes.
There you go, JB. Sorry to cut you off, man. What's going on, brother?
No worries. I just was gonna say that Glesnes is like Mr. Philadelphia to me, because I mean, as sexy as your all's attack has been, your defense has been like the championship pedigree, and with him and Elliott, they're just, and of course Martinez above them, it's just like they've been so dominant. It would be hard to imagine a Philadelphia game without Glesnes, to be honest.
It's important, like you mentioned, like that defensive structure, and you guys are trying to get that too, but like, the whole stigma around this league is that no one defends, right? It's all attack. Like there's no good goalkeepers, there's no good defenders. So to be able to have teams like Philly, teams like Cincinnati to turn that around, it's crazy. I always say to Justin, like I find it wild, like a team like Chicago, for an example, they will go out and spend money on their attack when their defense is absolute garbage.
I know,
and it's like, why not just invest that money to have some depth and build a good defensive structure? You will finish at least near middle of the table rather than the bottom of the table. But
that's always been my mindset, that it's also one of the reasons why I have that hard fast rule that you don't spend DP money on the defense, because you don't need to. You can spend it wisely, spread it through the positions. And I mean, Glesnes and Elliott, first of all, Elliott was a fourth round draft pick. And Glesnes we got for, I don't think, even like $500,000. And they've easily become one of the best center back duos in the league. And it's been clear. Like, I mean, again, Kai Wagner got him for essentially, pennies on the dollar from, Wurzburg Kickers in the German third division. And Olivier Mbaizo, we plucked from an academy in Africa. Like, Ernst Tanner and the Union have found, and I think that's what Cincinnati has done as well. And it is clear, investing in the midfield and the attack, but also not skimping on the defense is the slowly starting to become the standard, the gold standard, in which teams are realizing that in order to get success, you need to be able to balance that spending, but also allocate in such a manner that you're not getting that aging veteran in the midfield that's going to throw things out of whack, like a Showdown Sakiri, but yet also doing something like, bringing in a Luciano Acosta, who, for all his accounts, people thought, oh yeah, he went to Liga MX, he's gone, his days are better behind him, and he comes in. Obviously, first season was a little rough as things were changing, but look at what Cincinnati has now, and they didn't spend too much on their defense either, just like the Union have, and they've become one of the best defenses in the league.
We did have to open up our wallets a little bit with the defense. We have Obino Nwobano. I think he's a D. I'm pretty confident he's a DP player on that. And then if you remember last year, Matt Miazga was a Max Tam purchase. So we did, but if you remember, FC Cincinnati was abysmal at defending. We got things rolling with the attack, and it was just like we had that game where we gave up a 3-goal lead to New York City FC. I mean, that was crazy. So you had to make moves. We made moves. I think Obino was a May signing, and then also Matt Miazga came in the summer window last year. So yeah, we've had to kind of do a quick reset on that. So not building up like Philadelphia have been able to successfully do under Jim, but yeah, defense. I don't understand why people in this league undervalue defense. It's abysmal. Like you have teams like even Seattle. Look at all that money that they've spent on their attack, and their attack is just getting a little bit aged, and then you're just looking around. You're just like, well, we got Fry, and God help the back line. Like Fry better save everything. It's just it's weird. It's like there's some teams like Philadelphia and LA who've been able to build depth naturally, right? I mean, obviously, LA has some ability to go out and get star power. I'm not, no offense to Philadelphia, but they've been able to.
We get it, man.
Yeah, they've been able to go out and get star power, but they've really been able to build depth at all positions and to be able to really successfully build a defense that's worthy, right? I don't maybe not the newest guy they got from the Red Bulls, but the rest of their defense is pretty solid. So it's like you look at these championship pedigree teams, and you're just like, how do we not why don't we go after that? I know goals are great and that gets, butts and seats, but it's like you're not.
So does winning, man. So does winning.
Exactly. Exactly.
I think the best way to put it for, people who are just getting to soccer, I know we have a lot of NFL heads. If you have a good offensive defensive line, you will stay competitive in the league. And if you have a good back line in a solid midfield, you will stay competitive in this league as well. And the attack will come. Like for us, the attack came eventually. We were blessed to have guys like Carranza Nura. But it definitely, those things are extremely important. But gentlemen, let's get out of here. Let's end with predictions. JB, you are a guest. Give us a prediction, and then also, since it's a Union podcast, what we do, we want to know a key for the Union to beat Cincinnati, since you know Cincy so well.
I'm gonna go with I'm gonna get hate for this, but I think it's 2-0 Philadelphia.
Okay.
I think Philadelphia is going to kind of right the ship a little bit on this. I think that without Lucio Acosta, until proven otherwise, the engine doesn't run properly. And with a few other pieces that have been critical for keeping shape and playing that defense, I think we're going to have a long night of Mascara and Miazga just constantly having to deal with pressure from Gazdag and from Carranza. And I think Uwa's obviously going to have a matchup disadvantage. He's going to have the matchup advantage all night long if Ray Gaddis and Hagler are paired up on that our right side, your left side. So I think that Philadelphia is going to go for the throat a little bit. It's going to take a while to get to that 2-0 result. But I think ultimately when we're looking up probably in the 75th minute, that's what the result you're going to see.
Okay. Justin, give us your prediction.
I definitely think it's going to be it's always going to be a drag down knockout affair. It is going to be an interesting matchup. That is a bit bigger of a scoreline than I thought. I think with these games, one goal is really always what it's going to be. I think just because of and my one X factor is that Lucho Acosta, sized hole in the midfield, and I think if Daniel Gazdag can take advantage of the space that he's probably going to get With that, I think then the Union will definitely have the advantage, and that wing play is always crucial. And yeah, if Kai gets in behind and so does Uwa and Ray is in the game, Ray is a great defensive outside back, but he doesn't have that speed he once did. And I think that's a matchup that they can exploit. I'm going to go 2-1 Union. I definitely think it's going to be a tight one. And then as the Union tend to do, it'll be around like the 75th minute when that game winner will occur. And then it'll be as our boss Liam says, it'll be squeaky bum time for the last 15 minutes or so. But yeah, it's gonna be a tight one. But I think 2-1 Union.
All right. JB, listen, man, we really appreciate you having you on here again. We love you guys over at Cincy Soccer Talk. Let the people know where they can find you and Cincy Soccer Talk, man.
Yeah, so we're at CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com. You get your podcast links, your articles for match previews, and we do some USMNT, USWMT or NT. I'm sorry, I didn't have that one prepared. But yeah, we do a lot of content over there. Check us out, and on Twitter or X, I believe, you can find us at Cincy Soccer Talk down here in the box below. So
cool. Awesome stuff, man. JB, appreciate it again, man. Thank you for everyone for tuning on in again. That's going to do it for another episode of DOOP by the River. We'll see you guys for the next one. Make sure you guys like and subscribe, follow on Twitter, and make sure you also subscribe wherever you stream podcasts. Ladies and gentlemen, that is Justin Blair. That is Justin Tam, producer Friedberg. Of course, I go by the name of El Parcero Philly. Telling you guys to DOOP on. Talk to you guys.